I'd like to not only welcome you back, but also congratulate you, as you are about to enter into that no man's land where beginning and end meet. This no man's land linking beginning and end is possible because of what I've been talking about all along, the opposing forces of nature. Opposing forces see to it that opposites attract, so come with me into this no man's land by taking this final leg of our journey and thus making a new beginning.
Transfer of data incomplete.
Just as a tree sheds its leaves, returning them to the soil from which they came, this journey as it concludes will return you to the soil from which you came. And just as the fall signifies the end of one life cycle and spring the beginning of another, the culmination of this trek signals the end of one giant step and the beginning of another. In falling off the tree, the leaf gives up being a leaf and in the process revitalizes the soil. Likewise, you can give up your limiting beliefs and in the process revitalize your self-health. Now that you possess an understanding of what lies in the extraordinary world of inner space, you can use it to rediscover yourself and your life. Take this information technology and use it to make a quantum leap beyond the limiting beliefs that hitherto have limited your range of consciousness and activity. The power of this technology is not fantasy, it's reality. To bear this out, I guarantee that I can take any person's life and show how the path to self-health either led them to self-fulfillment or self-defeat, depending on whether they followed their instincts or undermined them. The self-health process is the root of all our destinies. Letting Destiny Deliver has been formulated to make the self-health process more visible and accessible. Letting Destiny Deliver, using the biographies of Jeffrey Dahmer and Carl Sagan, has shown the difference between a life fated for self-sabotage and one destined for distinction. Jeffrey Dahmer's life took a turn for the worse because of childhood neglect and the ensuing emptiness and loneliness it produced. Carl Sagan, because he was properly nurtured, was able to take his life and become an award-winning scientist, author, and activist. Now, Letting Destiny Deliver will use the following biography to illustrate the self-health process in the life of someone who, like Dahmer, had to deal with destructive forces not of her own making, but who, unlike Dahmer, didn't let these destructive forces lead her down the road to self-sabotage. The person I am talking about here is Oprah Winfrey. The destructive forces she faced could have easily distorted her sense of self, but they didn't. They didn't because throughout it all, Oprah was able to maintain a connection to her inner core and her instinctual capacity to have self-health. Oprah's own words and account of her life will be used to reveal the amazing parallel between her journey and how one might use this prescription. What follows was obtained from an interview with Barbara Walters. In this interview, Oprah shared the significant and intimate details of her childhood, a childhood which was neither typical nor easy. Oprah was born illegitimate and for the first 6 years of her life lived with her grandmother. Her grandmother's influence during those early years provided her with a spiritual foundation that would serve her for a lifetime. At the age of 6, Oprah went to live with her mother. It was then that she began a period of rebellion. This rebellious period continued until she was 14 when she was sent to live with her father, who was strict and demanded discipline. While at her father's, Oprah not only straightened out her life, she also entered several beauty pageants. Her talent helped her win pageants and also landed her a job on a local TV station. At the age of 19, while still attending Tennessee University, she became a reporter and anchorwoman. This led to her going to Chicago to host a morning talk show. It was on the air there that she was discovered by Quincy Jones for the part of the strong-willed Sophia in Steven Spielberg's 1985 film, The Color Purple. It was an acting debut that earned her an Academy Award nomination. Oprah's adversity was not limited to being tossed around from one home to another. She was also sexually abused as a child. At the age of 9, she lost her innocence after being raped by a relative. Later, she was raped by another family member and then again by a boyfriend. However, rather than wallowing in the victim role or becoming embittered, which would have blocked or distorted her sense of self, Oprah used the experiences to empower herself. These experiences empowered her because she derived from them a special sense of compassion and empathy. While talking to Barbara Walters about the impact of the abuse, Oprah said, "You cannot come out of it without being touched in some way." One way it touched her, she said, was by making her a sexually promiscuous teenager. Talking further on the matter, Oprah tells Barbara how the sexual abuse was very confusing for her since it was the first time anyone had shown her any kind of attention or affection. She said because of this, she confused sex for love and went searching for it, thus showing how easy it is to confuse the lower instinct of sex for the higher need of love. The abuse put Oprah through a period of rebellion that included doing such things as running away from home or bringing boys back to the house when her mother wasn't there. This all ended, however, after she went to live with her father. The sexual abuse could have led Oprah down the paved road to self-sabotage. However, thanks to the efforts of her father, it did not. He was an important outside force that helped her reshape her understanding of the meaning of love. In fact, she credits him with being her salvation. Although her father was there for her with love and direction, Oprah still had to contend with her inner world full of memories and feelings regarding the sexual abuse. Oprah was challenged to put these traumatic experiences and their associated feelings into a context or frame of reference that would lead to self-help rather than self-sabotage. Mentally and spiritually, Oprah was up to the challenge. Rather than denying, disowning, or repressing the traumatic experiences, she integrated them into the fabric of her day-to-day being. She faced the adversity and the pain courageously and broke through to the other side. On the other side, she found herself being an advocate for abused children, an actress, and a successful talk show host possessing a special empathy and compassion for others. Oprah was able to effectively organize these traumatic experiences. Instead of being blocked or distorted by them, she used them. For example, Oprah said the sexual abuse enabled her to do a scene in the movie The Color Purple in one take. The scene, she said, was the one where Sophia walks through the cornfields and says, "I had to fight my uncles and I had to fight my cousins, but I never thought I'd have to fight my own house." She said she was able to do it in one take because it was so real for her. Perhaps the hardest part of the sexual abuse for her to organize was the part that involved her mother. In the interview, Oprah stated that she was angry with her mom for a long time because she felt her mother knew and did nothing. To come to terms with that aspect, Oprah would have to put that particular piece, belonging to her mother, in a suitable context. She eventually was able to do that. Her peace came, she says, when she understood that her mother raised her the best she knew how, and that she gave her all she had to give. Oprah used fuzzy focus without knowing it. Even though it took her a long time, she eventually found the frame of reference that would allow her to come to peace with her mother's failure to do something for her during that terrible time. Later in the interview, Barbara Walters asked Oprah, "So where did this lady come from?" Oprah responds with, "I really don't know. Somewhere I've always known that I was born for greatness in my life. Somewhere I've always felt it." The "I don't know" was her conscious mind saying it didn't have the full answer to the question. The part the conscious mind had, even at a very young age, was the awareness of being destined for greatness. Aside from that awareness, it all happened unconsciously, or without her quite knowing how. In part, it was the feeling and the knowledge that she was destined for greatness that helped her transcend the distorting effects of the abuse. She finishes answering the question by saying, "I remember being on my grandmother's farm and knowing at 4 years old, I just always knew." Reflecting further, Oprah explains how she looks at her life, past and present. She says, "I don't regret being born illegitimate and living part of my life with my grandmother and part with my father and mother. I don't regret the confusion. I don't regret it all. It's made me exactly who I am, and without that, without all those elements, I would be somebody else. I probably would not, without my past, sexual abuse included, be able to handle what's happening to me as well as I think I am. The self-report illustrates Oprah's ability to process experience and use it to nurture self-health. Her ego knows how to process experience, toxic or nurturing, and make it empowering. This is evident in the statements, "I don't regret it all. It's made me exactly who I am." She has fame and fortune, yet remains caring, compassionate, and connected to everyday people. She has reached the pinnacle of success, yet finds purpose and meaning in championing worthy causes. She shows that embracing the higher instincts of the inner core means not only reaching your fullest potential, but also wanting to make the world a better place. Oprah's exceptional ability to organize experience led her to achieve higher levels of mental and spiritual awareness. It also provided her life with special purpose and meaning. Oprah, rather than being distracted or destroyed by adversity or success, has used it to triumph. Towards the end of the interview, Barbara Walters asked Oprah a loaded question. "Did you ever wish you were white?" Oprah responds with, "Yeah, I did. I was growing up in Mississippi, and it's the kind of thing I hesitate to say because when you say it, all the black groups call you and say, 'How dare you say it?' But yes, I did." This shows her tendency towards self-help, as she is in touch with what is real for her and says that, instead of what others may want her to say. Being true to herself rather than caving in to the gravitational forces of the outside world appears to be one of Oprah's secrets to success. Oprah goes on to explain why she wished she were white when she was a little girl. She says, "And I did, now I understand, not because white is better, but because in my mind then, white kids were loved more, they received more, their parents were nicer to them, and so I wanted that kind of life. I wanted to be one of the Kool-Aid kids." In the beginning of the program, the metaphor was used that uncovering the self is like being an archaeologist on an excavation, scooping away those aspects that do not belong and nurturing those that do. Oprah's sense of self and the way it organizes her thinking allows her to sort things out such that she knows what belongs to her and what doesn't. Oprah is saying she now realizes she really didn't want to be white. What she really wanted was to experience the higher needs of love and belonging. It just so happened that at that time her only frame of reference for what she wanted came from seeing white children with their families. Her depiction of the excavation process proceeds with, "And you know what changed me? The night I saw Diana Ross and the Supremes on the Ed Sullivan Show. I thought, I want to be like that. And so I look back on my life and I think when you ask me about how did I get to be here, there are so many little pieces to the process that has helped me to be who I am. Something as small as seeing Diana Ross and the Supremes. Seeing Diana Ross served as a trigger to help her recognize her real self. It sparked self-discovery. This one little piece entered Oprah's associative matrix and instantly made sense. Why? Because it matched the needs and requirements of her inner world. The same thing happened to Carl Sagan on his trip to the World's Fair and to Michael Landon during the Samson movie. Discovering the self is a process, as Oprah so aptly put it, not an event. She elaborates further on her process by saying, "I remember the night I was 10 years old and Sidney Poitier received the Academy Award for Lilies of the Field, and I thought to myself, I am going to be there. And it's the first time, I thought, I can do that. And the night I was at the Academy Awards, I thought, I did this." Barbara Walters then asks, "Why the tears now?" Oprah responds with, "Because I think that it's the first time I've thought about all the things that I really wanted. I have them." Barbara Walters says, "Tell me what they were." Oprah answers with, "I wanted to be somebody." In tears, she continues, "I think perhaps I've been so busy being that yes, I have done that. I have done that. To have gotten there and to know that you worked to get there and that it wasn't easy, it really wasn't easy, it feels very good." Being caused to reflect on her memories and her life, Oprah spontaneously comes to the recognition that she has fulfilled those potentials that she long ago saw as belonging to her. By going through this process with Barbara Walters, unconscious awareness is brought to conscious awareness. This is expressed in Oprah's statement because I think that it's the first time I've thought about all the things I really wanted. I have them. This statement, prompted by Barbara's question, "Why the tears now?" focused Oprah on what her tears were in essence saying. Remember, emotion is one of the ways the unconscious communicates with the conscious mind. This interview guided Oprah through the 7 R's. The questions caused her to reflect and remember as she answered responsibly. The open and honest reflection led her to the recognition that she had fulfilled so many of her aspirations. She also recognized and respected the fact that everything that happened to her went into making the person she is today. By going through this process with Barbara Walters, she realized that she had been so busy being all those things that she had not realized consciously how much of her potential she had fulfilled. She was consciously distracted from recognizing her accomplishments. Her emotions, however, once they were translated into words, enabled her to bring it to conscious awareness. This flow of information from the unconscious to the conscious allowed her two minds to come together and engaged her in the 7th R, restoration. It was restorative because it restored balance between what she knew unconsciously and what she knew consciously. It was restorative because it allowed her to update her conscious awareness and realize what she had accomplished. Unfortunately, it is not unusual to have accomplishments go unrecognized, as we usually do not notice when things go right. We are more likely to notice when things go wrong. This is why practicing the 7 R's is so important. Finally, Oprah said it was hard work to get where she is today. She further punctuates that by saying, "It really wasn't easy." She is right, self-development is hard work and it does require a lifelong commitment. The rewards are great, however, because having self-health does feel so very good. Remember, it is our ultimate need. Oprah was able to achieve the awareness as a mind and as a spirit that promoted self-health and self-development because she followed the 10 pathways. With the help of her father, she was able to 1. Overcome distortions or blockages brought on by the adversity. This alone could have greatly handicapped her self-development. Secondly, she developed an awareness of purpose and meaning that allowed her to put pain and pleasure into a therapeutic context. Thirdly, she maintained a balance between conscious and unconscious awareness by staying connected to her feelings and acting on them again and again, which is the 4th pathway. Oprah was not passive about getting what she needed, the 5th pathway, nor did she invite self-sabotage by denying, disowning, or repressing parts of her experience or parts of herself, the 6th pathway. She did not let being the target of 3 rapes create mindsets or limiting beliefs about who she was or what she was destined for, the 7th pathway. Instead, she kept an open mind and acted in ways that allowed her to give and earn love and respect, the 8th pathway. She obviously had self-doubt, but was able to overcome it by remaining connected to her sense of being something greater, the 9th pathway. Last but not least, she continues to act in ways that validate her lifelong commitment to self-health. Because she followed the course, she was able to effectively fill the gaps and heal the distortions to her awareness created by the sexual abuse and other destructive forces. Staying connected to the self and others and to the instinctual processes of the self-health system allowed her to effectively move from the past into the future and from who she was to who she was meant to be without self-sabotage. In spite of all kinds of adversity, Oprah Winfrey managed to move in the direction of self-health. She did it intuitively and unconsciously. She avoided irreparable damage and self-sabotage not only because of her grandmother and father's influence, but also because of her ability to reconcile the opposing forces of good and bad. Her life story is proof positive that we may not always have control over the outside forces in our lives, but we can take control of the effect they produce in our inner world and our life.
Transfer of data is complete.
The biographical parts of our journey, showcasing the lives of Sagan, Dahmer, and Oprah, clearly demonstrate not only the self-health process, but also just how imposing the forces of family are on the self-health system. The family, with its own opposing forces of expansion and contraction, exert an incredible influence on the inner core. The opposing forces within the family that affect the inner core's ability to expand and contract are closeness and distance. The forces of closeness and distance are important because they go a long way in activating and forming the inner core. The opposing forces of closeness and distance are daunting because we instinctively desire closeness as it drives us to fulfill our need to belong. At the same time, we instinctively need distance because it aids us in developing a sense of separateness, which the self needs. Consequently, if the balance between closeness and distance is disrupted significantly or for long periods, it can result in a distorted sense of self by either making one too accountable to others or not accountable enough. An example of too much closeness is overprotectiveness, and an example of too much distance is abandonment. Dr. Murray Bowen, a renowned family therapist and theorist, recognized long ago how the forces of closeness and distance dramatically influence the thoughts and feelings of family members. He observed in family after family how too much distance or closeness created an emotional reactivity in some family members that interfered with their ability to think rationally or achieve an appropriate level of maturity. He also found that this disturbed emotional reactivity would only go away if the families were able to offer its members the opportunity to develop both a sense of belonging and a sense of separateness. This delicate balance between closeness and distance is not always easy to maintain because, as with all opposing forces, there is tension. In this case, it's emotional tension. This emotional tension, if not properly handled, can result in the chronic anxiety that leads to the dysfunctional patterns of relating that promote self-sabotage. These patterns of relating, which if established within the family, can forestall self-development. Without self-health, these dysfunctional patterns are certain to be reenacted over and over again throughout one's life. In other words, the more we are driven throughout our lives by the same immature emotional reactions developed in childhood, the more we become trapped in a world controlled by dysfunctional thoughts and feelings. Like limited belief systems, limited emotional reactions rob us of our individuality. These ingrained emotional reactions interfere with the ability to discern what is from what was, thereby setting into motion destructive, self-fulfilling prophecies. The short of it is that the more we suffer from limited belief systems and limited emotional reactions, the more we handicap our relationships and ourselves. Handicaps of this sort throw the self-health system into self-sabotage as we become unable to distinguish the toxic from the nourishing or fantasy from reality. This is where letting destiny deliver can help. It not only improves self-health, it also empowers you to be more effective in your relationships. It does so by improving your understanding of human nature, human interaction, and human consciousness. Letting destiny deliver helps by teaching you how to use both minds, the conscious and unconscious, which is absolutely necessary if you are going to effectively process emotion and thought, which is absolutely necessary if you want to distinguish what was from what is. So as we near the conclusion of this journey, and as you prepare to disembark, the one thing you don't want to ever do again is underestimate the power of opposing forces, especially when it comes to consciousness and the family. Being able to reconcile the opposing forces of conscious and unconscious mind and closeness and distance will make your life more meaningful, as well as allow you to make a difference with your life. Self-reflective consciousness grows out of the tension produced by conscious and unconscious mind, whereas interpersonal styles and patterns grow out of the tension produced by closeness and distance. Both are in danger in the face of today's modern technological society, which is putting our self-health at risk. Without self-health, we not only lose our sense of self, but also the ability to love and respect others and ourselves. Without self-health, we invite self-sabotage. And if self-sabotage becomes more and more the rule, generation after generation, it will spell hardship for most. This is why we need to improve the human side of technology as effectively as we have the technological. We have to act now before it's too late, otherwise our feelings of loneliness and despair will grow greater and greater with each new generation. Put metaphorically, the genesis of cultural sabotage is analogous to what happens when you copy a videotape. The second generation does not come out as clear and crisp as the original. When you then use the second generation video to make the third generation, a little more is lost.
Transfer of data incomplete.
As you progress further and further into this process, the picture and sound quality continues to deteriorate. This is why it is important to improve the human side of technology as we have the technological, to reverse the progressive deterioration of self-health to self-sabotage from one generation to the next. Letting Destiny Deliver is a self-health prescription intended to guide you down the road to self-health. It has been formulated just for you so you can properly calibrate the opposing forces of mind, body, and spirit, and thereby keep your date with destiny. Because if you believe like Crosby, Stills, and Nash, who say, "We are stardust, we are golden," or like Earth, Wind, and Fire, who say, "You are a shining star no matter who you are, shining bright you see, because you can truly be," then you know your potential is astronomical. Your astronomical potential is a reality, but it can only be made actual if you are willing to shoulder the great responsibility that comes with astronomical potential. As we make our final descent to the landing strip, it's time once again to check in and see how your belief systems are doing. Do you believe that you possess an inner core with higher and lower instincts? Do you believe that it is imperative to meet the higher needs of the inner core to achieve self-health? Do you believe you have an unconscious mind that is a highly developed form of intelligence that wants to guide you towards fuller development? Do you believe in you? If you answered no to any of those questions, then you still possess some limiting beliefs that must be overcome. If you answered yes, then you've taken your first step into a larger world. Regardless, remember, this prescription never runs out because you can use it again and again. Herein lies the tools, but only you have the power to use them to transform your potential into something real. You have the power because you are now armed with the knowledge you need to strike a balance between knowledge and instinct, between self and ego. You have the power because you have a self-reflective consciousness that can bring balance and order to the opposing forces that drive the mind, body, and spirit. So don't get lost in the superficial, fast-paced, high-tech lifestyle that can cram your days so full there is little time for conscious self-reflection to discover yourself and the deeper meaning of your life. Take this newly found understanding of self-health and use it to help you distinguish the nurturing from the toxic, the real from the unreal, and truth from deception. Use the pathways to deliver you from self-sabotage and the 7 R's to nurture the higher instincts of the inner core. It's time now for me to bring this journey to an end. This end, however, is just the beginning of a process that you can and must engage in regularly to free your mind and have fewer and fewer limited beliefs. Using this prescription over time will help you have fewer and fewer limited beliefs, which will help you get closer to your true potential. So start freeing your mind today and discover the true you. Inner Space, the Infinite Frontier. This has been a journey of story and study fashioned for you. Its purpose was to reveal to you the universe of mind, body, and spirit, to boldly take you where no one has taken you before.